already prepared. You don't know it yet, but you passed the test. And now, it's time for you to check the score. The test you feared most has already ended, and you didn't even realize it. This Saturn-Moon conjunction on October 6th isn't arriving to put you through more pain. It's arriving as the stamp of approval, the cosmic signature that marks you as someone who endured what others would have broken under. For the chosen ones, this is not just a date in the sky. It's a declaration. The threshold has been crossed. It's crucial for you to be aware of the signs you've passed this test, because when this conjunction peaks on October 6th, the benefits begin unfolding. When Saturn rewards you, it never feels like a gift. It feels like survival. This planet is the great examiner, and its blessings don't come wrapped in comfort. They come wrapped in scars. Every moment you resisted breaking down, every time you carried the weight instead of dropping it, those were the answers you didn't know you were writing. Now the moon joins Saturn, pressing the lesson deeper into the emotional body. You're not being handed wealth, love, or peace on a silver platter. You're being handed a new framework of life, a structure where weakness no longer fits. And for the chosen ones, this is the moment where endurance is no longer tested, it's weaponized. This is the conjunction where Saturn stops examining and starts repositioning. October 6th is the date of the stamp, not the exam. But before this conjunction seals your victory, you need to make sure you've passed the test first. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to break away. If you've carried that constant feeling of not belonging anywhere, like no room has ever truly been yours, like no crowd has ever really matched your spirit, that's not a flaw. That is the clearest sign you've already passed the test. Chosen ones are separated by design. While the world runs in circles, repeating the same cycles, your path has been pulled away from the ordinary. That emptiness you felt when people couldn't understand you, that loneliness that followed you into rooms filled with noise, that was the proof. It means you didn't cave into conformity. You didn't sell yourself for approval. The test was never about fitting in. It was about whether you could survive being left out. And the fact that you're still standing, still searching, still listening, is everything. But here's the twist. Being set apart doesn't mean being abandoned. It means you're being positioned. And the position you're about to step into is one that many people would have begged for, but only the ones who endured the exile will actually claim. When others closed their minds, Saturn was watching to see if yours stayed open. Look back at the chaos of these past months. People grew hardened, bitter, and cynical. Many shut themselves off completely, refusing to see beyond their own pain. But if you managed to stay open, if you stayed curious, willing to learn, willing to shift, then you've already proven yourself to Saturn. The greatest stamp of maturity isn't how much you know, it's how much you're still willing to question. When others built walls, you left a window open. That's why this conjunction carries weight for you. Saturn doesn't reward stubbornness, it rewards the rare souls who remain flexible when everything around them tries to turn rigid. This is what sets you apart. The open mind is the mark that you're ready for wisdom, ready for alignment, ready to carry truths most people aren't strong enough to hold. And as the moon amplifies this alignment, you're about to realize that staying open was never a weakness. It was the very reason you survived the test. And now, that same openness is about to expose you to something much greater than survival. It's about to reveal a hidden power that only a handful will be prepared to face. There comes a moment when the applause goes silent, and you realize you don't need it anymore. Chosen ones always hit that breaking point the day they stop begging to be understood. Maybe you've noticed it recently. You don't explain yourself like you used to. You don't waste energy trying to convince others why you think the way you do, why you feel different, why you see things they can't. That urge to seek validation from the crowd, it's gone. And the moment it disappeared, Saturn took note. Because the real exam wasn't about whether people clapped for you or believed in you. It was whether you could keep walking when no one clapped at all. For so long, you bent yourself into shapes that made other people comfortable. You lowered your voice so you wouldn't sound too much. You carried pain silently so you wouldn't look too dramatic. But slowly, piece by piece, you dropped the mask. Now you don't need the spotlight. You don't need the approval. And ironically, that's when your light begins to shine the brightest. Saturn doesn't reward those who beg for recognition. It rewards those who learned how to stand alone without it. That strength is the proof that you've outgrown the need for permission. This is the shift. When you no longer chase validation, validation starts chasing you. Opportunities, respect, even envy, they'll all find their way to you, not because you begged for them, but because you finally stopped. That's the paradox Saturn loves to hand out. The prize comes when you've proven you don't need the prize at all. And what's about to find you next isn't just approval from people. It's something far more dangerous and far more valuable. Peace stops feeling boring when you've survived the storm. Think back to how you used to be pulled into chaos. Maybe you thrived on arguments. Maybe gossip hooked your attention. Maybe scrolling through endless drama gave you a weird sense of life. But something's changed. What once activated you now just feels heavy, empty, meaningless. That shift wasn't random, it was Saturn's test, and you've already passed it. The true exam wasn't about resisting chaos when it was quiet. It was about facing it when it was loud, tempting, unavoidable, and realizing you didn't want it anymore. That's growth no one can fake. You didn't just stop feeding off chaos, you lost the taste for it entirely. And look around. The world is more chaotic than ever. People addicted to outrage, feeding off negativity, dragging their spirit down with every scroll, every argument, every fight. But you see through it now. That same chaos that once gave you a rush now feels like poison. That's how you know you've outgrown it. Saturn doesn't tempt you with what you can ignore. It tempts you with what used to own you, and you broke free. This is why you're being prepared for something bigger, because peace is no longer a luxury, it's your compass. And those who reject chaos are the only ones capable of leading through it. But here's the secret Saturn never says out loud. Once you've proven you're no longer attracted to chaos, you'll start attracting something else entirely, something that will test whether you're ready to hold power without being consumed by it. When the storm in your mind goes quiet, it's not emptiness, it's freedom. Think about how long you've lived inside your own head. Every choice overanalyzed, every mistake replayed like a broken record, every future scenario dissected until you were paralyzed. Overthinking wasn't just a habit, it was survival. You thought if you planned enough, worried enough, controlled every detail, maybe you could protect yourself from pain. But what actually happened? You just lived inside the pain twice, once before it came, and once when it finally arrived. And yet, something shifted. Maybe you didn't notice the exact moment, but one day you realized the constant chatter wasn't there anymore. The loops in your head that once never ended suddenly lost their grip. At first, it felt strange, almost suspicious. That silence in your thoughts, was it real? Or was it just the calm before another storm? But this time, it's different. This isn't the quiet of denial. This is the quiet of completion. Because here's the truth, Saturn never says directly. The test was never about how much you could think your way through. It was about whether you could finally stop thinking and start knowing. Overthinking is the mind's way of saying it doesn't trust life. And for years, you didn't. You had to keep the wheel in your hands, terrified of what would happen if you let go. But this conjunction marks the moment where letting go isn't weakness anymore. It's proof you passed. The end of overthinking is the beginning of alignment. When the chatter dies down, you begin to notice signals you used to miss. Little synchronicities, gentle nudges, the quiet whispers that tell you where to go without needing 10 different mental strategies. You begin to feel peace not as a fleeting break, but as your new default. And the irony is, this new silence feels almost supernatural because you're so used to the noise. You're not losing your mind, you're finding it for the first time. This is why the sudden drop in overthinking is so important. It's the mark of graduation. The mental storm that once punished you has dissolved because there is no test left to study for. And as the noise dies, you're finally able to hear what's been waiting underneath it all along. But here's the part most people miss. Silence is never the end of the story. Silence is the doorway. And what steps through that doorway next will either shake you or crown you. The pain was never meant to break you. It was meant to reforge you. Think back to the hardest nights of your life. The moments when you swore you couldn't take another step, when you felt like the universe was targeting you, stripping everything away until nothing remained. You thought you were being destroyed, but here's the truth you can only see now, standing on the other side. You weren't being destroyed, you were being reforged. Saturn never tests with comfort. Saturn tests with fire. It strips you bare not to weaken you, but to force out the metals you didn't even know were inside you. And for the longest time, you couldn't see it. You thought all that pain was meaningless. But now, with this Saturn-Moon conjunction, the metals return as something new. Patience you didn't know you had, resilience that doesn't crumble at the first sign of difficulty, discipline that anchors you instead of chains you. And here's the secret. These strengths were never missing. They were buried. You already carried them, but pain was the key that unlocked them. The moon's presence in this alignment means those hidden capacities don't just sit in your subconscious anymore, they rise into your conscious life. Suddenly, you feel a strange clarity where before there was only fog. You find courage in places you used to avoid. Doubt still whispers, but it no longer controls the outcome. Strength doesn't arrive as a gift. It arrives disguised as everything you thought you couldn't survive. For the chosen one, this is the moment where what once broke you becomes the very thing that empowers you. The betrayals, the loneliness, the heartbreak, the failures, none of it was wasted. Each one was a furnace, and you were the iron placed inside. That's why now, when other people collapse at the weight of life, you feel an almost eerie steadiness. You've already carried more. You've already seen worse. And that's the beauty of Saturn's harsh love. It makes you indestructible without you even noticing. The strengths you carry now won't just serve you in small ways. They will become the foundation of who you are becoming. Where you once questioned your worth, you now step into unshakable certainty. Where you once bent under pressure, you now stand like stone. This is not the return of what you lost. This is the arrival of what was always waiting inside you. And if you're wondering why it feels so unfamiliar, it's because you've been too used to living without it. But now, With the veil lifting, you will begin to see just how much of yourself you had hidden away all along. And once those strengths fully return, you'll realize the test was never about surviving. It was about proving to yourself what you were truly made of. Once you pass the hardest test, the universe starts bending the rules in your favor. Have you noticed how lately the timing of things feels suspicious? You leave the house a few minutes later than usual and somehow avoid an accident on the road. You reach out to someone at the exact moment they were thinking of you. A job posting appears the very day you were considering a change. To the outside world, these things look like coincidences. But when you've crossed through Saturn's exam, you begin to see them for what they are. Signals that you've entered a new rhythm. Saturn doesn't hand you a trophy. Saturn gives you a new clock. And suddenly, time itself seems to play by different rules. It's as if the universe tilts the board just slightly in your favor. Disasters miss you by inches, conversations arrive at the perfect moment, and pathways that were once invisible begin opening in front of you. These aren't accidents. These are alignments. Think about it. How many times have you barely escaped something that could have gone terribly wrong? Missing a bus that later breaks down, canceling a meeting that would have tied you into a situation you didn't need, walking away from someone at just the right second before their true intentions came to light. On paper, it looks like luck, but in truth, it's Saturn's way of marking your passage to the next level. Coincidence is just the universe leaving fingerprints. The Saturn-Moon conjunction amplifies this even more. Saturn represents structure, order, and discipline, while the Moon represents the tides of our inner world. When the two align, your inner rhythm and the cosmic rhythm synchronize. That's why the timing feels so uncanny, because for once, you're not fighting the current. You're being carried by it. This is the strange gift of having passed the test. The world doesn't suddenly become easier, but it becomes coordinated. What felt random now feels orchestrated. You step into what some might call divine timing, where even delays serve you and even setbacks protect you. It's almost unsettling at first because you're used to life being chaotic. But this shift in timing is Saturn's version of a reward. Not comfort, not ease, but alignment. And here's the key. These strange timings are not just small blessings, they are proof that your energy has leveled up. You're no longer trapped in the cycle where chance tosses you around. You've become someone the universe conspires with. That's why your life feels stitched together by coincidences, because you're no longer stumbling. You're being guided. The more you notice it, the more it happens. Doors close at the exact moment they're supposed to. People exit right before they would have drained you. And people enter right when you need them most. This is Saturn's cosmic stamp of approval, playing out in the rhythm of your everyday life. Luck is what the chosen call it. Alignment is what it really is. And the deeper this conjunction imprints itself into your path, the more you'll realize what once felt like chance was actually the universe quietly rearranging itself, just to keep you on course. A door is about to slam shut, and it will never open again. The Saturn-Moon conjunction on October 6th is not just another celestial event. It will be a cosmic lock, the final turning of the key on a cycle you've been dragging with you for years, maybe even lifetimes. And here's the brutal, dramatic truth. Once Saturn seals something, it's over. There will be no rewinding, no negotiating, no bargaining your way back into the old loop. What closes on October 6th will close forever. Think of the patterns that stalked you, The toxic relationships you kept circling back to, the betrayals that seemed to follow the same script no matter who was involved, the financial struggles that rose and fell like waves. These weren't random. They were karmic scripts, lessons repeating until you finally answered the question correctly. On October 6th, Saturn will act as the examiner and the moon as the scribe, stamping your paper and sealing the file. And when that happens, the weight you've been carrying won't just loosen, it will vanish. This is why some chosen ones may already feel a strange emptiness, as if something heavy is preparing to leave their chest. At first, it won't even feel like relief. It may feel like absence. You'll be so used to carrying the burden that its sudden removal feels suspicious, like you lost a part of yourself. But you didn't lose yourself. You lost what was never yours to begin with. Saturn doesn't just end a cycle. Saturn buries it so deep that even memory cannot resurrect it. Here's the danger. Even after October 6th, people will try to drag you back into those old stories. They'll poke at the wounds, test if they can still control you, tempt you into the same drama. But the seal will already be made. The cosmic lock will have clicked. And if you try to re-enter that door, you'll find it doesn't exist anymore. What once pulled you into endless loops of pain will fall flat, powerless, hollow. And this is the real test hidden inside the reward. Will you cling to the ghost of who you were, or will you accept the terrifying freedom of who you've become? Because make no mistake, freedom is terrifying. It strips you of excuses. It leaves you with no cycle to blame, no karmic weight to carry. You won't be defined by suffering anymore. You'll be defined by what you choose to build in its absence. The Saturn-Moon conjunction on October 6th won't just say, lesson learned. It will say, lesson finished. The door will slam, the key will break in the lock, and the entire hallway behind you will collapse. There will be no going back. Karma will not be chasing you anymore. The only footsteps you'll hear will be your own. And that silence, that absence of the old battles, will be the ultimate proof that you've crossed into the next level of your path. Saturn will remove the weight, and once October 6th has passed, it's up to you to decide how far you will move without it. This was not the end, it was the initiation. The Saturn-Moon conjunction on October 6th isn't just a cosmic punctuation mark, it's the signature at the bottom of the test paper you've already written with your suffering, your choices, and your resilience. Think of it less as the grand finale and more as the prelude, the final rehearsal before the lights come on for the real performance. This conjunction is the quiet but undeniable confirmation that you survived the most painful chapter. But it's also the warning. Survival was never the end goal. Survival was only the ticket in, because looming beyond this alignment is something far greater, the Great Conjunction, the kind of celestial event that rewrites collective energy fields, resets timelines, and divides the paths of those who are ready from those who are not. And Saturn, in its cold and uncompromising wisdom, has already run the filtering process. Not everyone gets carried into this next chapter. Only those who face the harshest storms without breaking, or more importantly, who broke but reassembled stronger, will carry the full weight of what's coming. This is not reward for suffering. This is initiation through endurance. Think about how many people folded when the weight pressed down. Some grew bitter, some hardened, some turned away from their own inner compass just to escape the pain. But you endured, not because you had to, but because your soul demanded it. That was the exam, not the chaos, not the failures, not the heartbreak itself, but the way you walked through it without abandoning yourself. And this Saturn moon moment is the stamp that says yes, they are ready. And here's the part that makes it dramatic. When Saturn gives clearance, it doesn't mean your life becomes easy. It means your life becomes heavy with purpose. The moon's role here is to press this energy into your emotional body so that you don't just understand it mentally, you feel it. You feel the finality of what has ended and the weight of what has just begun. The foreshadowing here is sharp. If you thought the pain was the climax, you misunderstood the story. That was only the initiation ritual, the burning away of what could not come with you. The real chapter begins when the Great Conjunction rises, and only those who survived Saturn's silent exam will have the capacity to use that surge instead of being consumed by it. The universe never wastes suffering. Every scar is proof that you are being prepared for something far greater than survival. So don't misread the moment. This is not closure in the way humans crave it. It's not about tying everything in a neat bow and saying the worst is behind you. It's deeper than that. This is a cosmic foreshadow, a whisper from the stars that says, "You made it through the threshold. Now brace yourself for the throne." Because initiation is not about what ended. It's about the power that's waiting to arrive, and whether you're prepared to carry it without breaking again. You survived for a reason. On October 6th, Saturn demands you use it. The trials weren't punishment. They weren't random. Every sleepless night, every heartbreak, every rejection, they were weights designed to forge you into something unbreakable. And now, as the Saturn-Moon conjunction approaches, survival is no longer the point. The point is what you do with the strength you've earned. Saturn doesn't reward with comfort. Saturn seals oaths. This alignment marks the moment where your resilience becomes responsibility. You are no longer a candidate being tested. You are being consecrated. Passing the test doesn't place a crown on your head. It places a burden in your hands to stand steady where others collapse, to see clearly where others are blind, to carry strength when the collective falters. The weight you carried alone is now the weight you are meant to carry for others. This doesn't mean exhaustion or martyrdom. It means being the anchor. When the Great Conjunction unleashes its tidal wave, people will panic, scatter, and drown in uncertainty. But you will recognize the energy. You've already lived it in silence, privately. That is why you were chosen. Not because you escaped suffering, but because you endured it, you digested it. And now you can hold space that others cannot. You didn't survive to go back. You survived to become who you were meant to be. October 6th doesn't just close the exam, it opens the oath. Saturn isn't asking for survival anymore. Saturn is demanding embodiment. The cycle is finished. The chosen ones are no longer waiting to be proved. They are stepping into their consecration. If you're still watching, I'd like to thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed the content and want to see more, please consider clicking the subscribe button. Your support is very appreciated. Feel free to share your experiences or thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, take care and subscribe for more insightful content.